So Trump brought together all our top US military officials into one room in Virginia. He and Pete Hegseth, our defense secretary, gave a speech on where they want our military to move towards and the new standards they want our military to have and what they're getting rid of. Now, they've been getting a ton of backlash, and I thought we better check it out for ourselves. So let's roll the first clip.
This speech today, as I drink my coffee, this speech today is about people, and it's about culture. The topic today is about the nature of ourselves. Because no plan, no program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department. If I've learned one core lesson in my 8 months in this job, it's that personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. The best way to take care of troops is to give them good leaders committed to the warfighting culture of the department. Not perfect leaders, good leaders. Competent, qualified, professional, agile, aggressive, innovative, risk-taking, apolitical, faithful to their oath and to the Constitution. Eugene Sledge, in his World War II memoir, wrote, quote, "War is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste. Combat leaves an indelible mark on those who are forced to endure it. The only redeeming factors are my comrades' incredible bravery and their devotion to each other." In combat, there are thousands of variables, as I learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, and as so many of you did in so many more places. Leaders can only control about 3 of them. You control how well you're trained, mostly how well you're equipped, and the last variable is how well you lead. After that, you're on your own. Our warfighters are entitled to be led by the best and most capable leaders. That is who we need you all to be. Even then, in combat, even if you do everything right, you may still lose people because the enemy always gets a vote. We have a sacred duty to ensure that our warriors are led by the most capable and qualified combat leaders. This is one thing you and I can control, and we owe it to the force to deliver it. For too long, we have simply not done that. The military has been forced by foolish and reckless politicians to focus on the wrong things. In many ways, this speech is about fixing decades of decay. Some of it obvious, some of it hidden. Or as the chairman has put it, we are clearing out the debris, removing the distractions, clearing the way for leaders to be leaders. You might say we're ending the war on warriors. I heard someone wrote a book about that. For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts. We've pretended that combat arms and non-combat arms are the same thing. We've weeded out so-called toxic leaders under the guise of double-blind psychology assessments, promoting risk-averse, go-along-to-get-along conformists instead. You name it, the department did it. Foolish and reckless political leaders set the wrong compass heading, and we lost our way. We became the woke department.
So can anyone tell me what was wrong with what he said there? Go ahead, I'll wait. Because he wants to bring back toughness and fitness into the military. I agree 100%. He wants to take away DEI hires. 100% agree with that. He wants to promote the most qualified individuals. 100% agree with that. Why would we want to promote somebody based off of their skin color or gender? That makes no sense. You want the most qualified person in every position of the military. And on top of that, why wouldn't you want soldiers that can handle being yelled at and grabbed and a crazy environment when you're in a controlled environment? Because if they can handle it there, they're going to be a lot more likely to be able to handle it in actual combat where there's 1,000 different variables that could be happening and it really is life or death. Would you rather have a bunch of gender fluid crybabies that are going to break down and start peeing their pants every time bullets start flying? No, I think not. The only people complaining about this stuff are people who don't have any intentions of ever actually going into combat and just want to sit behind a desk and act like they're the face of the military and they're the ones that are making this country successful. But as you know, The View always has something to say about Trump and anybody who's with Trump because they have Trump derangement syndrome. Let me show you this clip of them.
Right before we went on the air, the newly renamed Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, spoke to U.S. military leaders from around the world to lay out his very retro vision for our armed forces. Watch.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department. We are done with that. It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits.
Why is he obsessed with fat?
Yeah, and fitness and...
Are you hearing the nonsense coming out of these ladies' mouths? They actually had the nerve to say, why is he so upset with fat and fitness? Let me think. Maybe because these are the men and women protecting our country? These people have to be in the peak fitness of their lives because while they're on the battlefield and getting shot at by the enemy, they also could be carrying upwards of 100 pounds of gear while all of that is happening and having a million other variables going on at the same time. Would you rather have some fat slob that just left his mom's couch running around, can't even tie his own shoe without running into his belly, tripping over his own feet, not athletic? I don't think so. I want somebody in peak fitness, peak performance out there to give me the best chance of winning and keeping our freedoms alive. And even when they are in the most peak performance and best fitness possible, sometimes that's not even enough. And sometimes it still falls short. And that's why I have so much respect for the men and women that are overseas and are in the military that are fighting for our freedoms and for our country. But you already know they couldn't stop there. They got to say something about Trump. Check it out.
Because Trump took the stage after he did, and I think he's still talking right now. But take a look.
If you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. We went, in a way, woke. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. And we changed it to defense instead of war. And I said, what do you think? How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? I thought it would be met with fury on the left, but they're sort of giving up, I must be honest with you. They've had it. They've had it with Trump. You don't have to be that good with nuclear. You could have 1/20th what you have now and still do the damage. You can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N word. There are two N words, and you can't use either of them.
So how do you think the highest-ranking U.S. military officials feel about taking orders from a reality star and a former talk show host?
They got to take their jabs. Former reality star and talk show host. How about former president and current president? How about someone who has proven himself and actually has been in rooms with other world leaders and has demanded respect? But don't worry, it doesn't stop there. There's more.
I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
It was really a bizarre thing. He started talking about woke DEI policies. By the way, there are no gender quotas in the military. By the way, he fired more than a dozen military leaders, many of them people of color and women. He fired the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Charles Brown Jr., who is African-American. Yeah. He fired the first woman to command the Navy, Admiral Lisa Franchetti.
They're making such a big deal about how much money it costs and how much time was wasted bringing in all these military officials into one room. Well, clearly none of them have ever ran a team before, and let alone a country. Some messages need to be delivered face to face. A Skype or a phone call will not suffice. You need to have that face to face contact, let people know I'm serious, this is the direction we're moving, and there is no wiggle room. And then they go on to say, well, he's letting people go and he's letting alone the first black woman, the first black this. And there's always a first black or first woman. Where is the most qualified? Why was that never mentioned? Because that's exactly what they're talking about. Getting rid of DEI hires and getting the most qualified into the position. Now, I got one last clip for you guys. Check it out.
I don't understand the sort of hypocrisy, firing these people, having all these people meet together and then denigrating them.
But did you look at it? They're looking at him like he has two heads.
Well, they didn't applaud the beginning of that clip you just saw. The president is Trump. President Trump said, if you want to applaud, you applaud. If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, and then you heard the rest. There goes your rank and your future.
Absolutely. If you don't want to fall in line with the direction that the military's going, then get up out of here. Say bye-bye to your rank. Because I can guarantee you that China and Russia and other countries all have a specific standard for their military. And why shouldn't the greatest country in the world have a standard themselves? We should, absolutely, because we need to have mentally and physically strong people protecting our country. Would you rather have Tony, who says his pronouns are he, she, them, or that he's currently going through his menstrual cycle and he's having period cramps and that he needs a litter box in the barracks because he identifies as a cat? I don't think so. When it comes down to it, we want physically and mentally strong people in our military. Y'all let me know what y'all think, and I'll catch you on the next one.